Well,
Okay.
since JT's muted
Sorry about
for
that.
the first time
I'm good now.
in his life, utilizing. Go ahead, bro.
I just didn't realize I muted myself because it's in second timer, and then I forgot to unmute myself because when we do it from the intro, it automatically unmutes us. That's my bad. Hi, everyone. We're going to talk about a little bit of Avs today, but mostly your Nuggets, their winning streak, how Peyton Watson has elevated his game, potential award season talk with some of our topics here, and then we're going to talk about the Broncos-Bills matchup this weekend. So stick with us, and we will be right back.
Yo, welcome to the show. Let me set the scene. Mile High Sports Symposium, living the dream. Broncos in the house with that orange and blue. Nuggets making moves, watch that altitude crew. Avalanche bringing ice, check the skills they display. Rocky swinging bats, ready for game day. Rapids in the mix, kicking it with style. Buffs bring the heat, put the rivals on trial. Out talking JJT, they got the scoop. Mile High vibes, feel that energy rise. Sports on the menu, watch the crowd mesmerize. From football to hockey, we're taking it higher. Join the celebration, feel that sports desire.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mile High Sports Symposium. I am your host, JT Matthews, and I'm here with the Dr. Nicholas Manning at @DR_in_Manning on X. I still don't like calling it X. But here we are. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a new setup. I just moved my desk into a room instead of like the common area of the basement. We used to have a toy room. The kids would play in there, but now they're kind of older and they don't really play with the toys. So I've got a little bit of space now, and it gives the kids somewhere else to be, and I can be in here doing my thing.
I mean, the better way to say it is I made those little get out.
That's right.
It's my turn.
Mm-hmm.
My house. I pay the bills.
Yeah, I definitely moved to the smaller room to show them what's what.
That's right. That's right. And they better be thankful for it.
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
These kids, yeah, for sure. They could give zeros about you. How are you, man? How are things?
Oh man, it's good. It's been a busy week, but I think we had some family in town, had to do the hosting thing, and then Sunday was pretty chill, and then going back to work. So it's been like nice to have today to just kind of do nothing. Nothing that has expectations. Got to run around a little bit, get some chores done, some errands done, but not bad. How about you?
Yeah, I stuff. I've done a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Which has been good, but you know what? I got stuff done. So as someone with ADHD, it's sometimes you don't always check off the boxes.
Yeah. You look at them a lot.
They get started. You look at them a lot. They get started and they lead to other boxes. And so anyway, it's been a pretty productive stretch for me. At some point I will crash and burn. That's just how it works. But right now I'm slow burning.
It's fully entrenched.
Yeah, fully entrenched, but trying to put some vacation opportunities in front of me. So having some things to look forward to, and then obviously being in the greatest sports city in the history of humankind,
of course,
is pretty dope. I'm not gonna lie, pretty dope. And yes,
sure.
Chris, sometimes the box does check you. I mean, if you are, if you're Craig, boxes get you fired on your day off. So Friday, how you gonna get fired on your day off, Craig? Because you stole some boxes. Yeah. Anyway, but with that, we got stuff. This is a good time to be a Colorado sports fan, or even just a sports fan that lives in Colorado, like Chris, who lives here and doesn't like any of the teams. But that's not true. He does like the
He could live vicariously through us.
That's true. But yeah, let's kick off some Avs first, right? Let's tee it up for the people. What are we gonna talk Avsies about?
Yeah, I think we have a lot to talk about. Avs had a loss the other night against Toronto in overtime.
Oh,
yeah, I know. It is.
But in overtime. So again,
it isn't. Yeah, not a regulation loss, but outside of that, they've been continuing to rack up some wins. Still are leading the NHL in points pretty comfortably. Just a good time to be a fan. They have they've sent Trent Miner back to the minor leagues. I saw today, so he's been in a couple games while Mackenzie Blackwood's been recovering, and it sounds like with Miner going back to the minor leagues, then we'll probably see Blackwood back soon, and it'll be good. We'll get those guys back up to full strength, at least the goalie room. And we're still kind of powering through some injuries with Landeskog and Taves, but this is the time if you got a big lead, give you guys some time to recover, kind of like the Nuggets have been doing a little bit. If you can tread water, then you can kind of give those guys time to recover, and Avs are just kind of firmly ensconced in first place.
Let me go over just their pace real quick, because I think two things. One, health going into the playoffs or postseason, or just health in general for a team, I think is a huge indicator on team success. If you look at the Broncos, right? You look at Seattle, the Seahawks. I think both of those teams are teams in the NFL that have been impacted less on injuries. I would say the Dodgers when they won there. Same with the et cetera, right? Like usually team and you stay healthy, you're gooder longer. The Broncos are an example of that. The Avalanche and Nuggets are kind of like one of they're discovering what else they got. Hurt. Kind of pushing on that a little bit, but there's injuries and yet they're still performing really well. But I think we all understand for this team to win a cup, both all arena teams, to win a championship in their respective sports, they got to be as close to 100% as possible. And with the Avalanche right now, so they have 74 points out of a possible 90 points, right? Current pace. So that's a point percentage of over 82%, which is pretty crazy. They're on pace for 135 points, which would tie Boston's record from 22 to 23. They also are still unbeaten in regulation at home. It's like they haven't lost at home since last June or something.
Yeah.
Whenever that, long time. And so this team not only is head and shoulders above the rest of the Western Conference, but the NHL as a whole, and putting themselves in rarefied air as some of the best regular season group put together. And people are like, well, we'll worry about how they play in the playoffs. Yeah, we'll get there. But don't you want a team that's greedy, right? That's like, no, we want it all. We want it all, and we're gonna dominate people on the way there. And to me, do you want to be a team that limps into the playoffs and goes on a run? Yeah, maybe that's magical. Or you're a juggernaut and you dispose of everything and everyone. And I think this team is leaning into that.
Yeah.
When you're on your third string goalie, he comes in for a start and pitches a shutout. And then Toronto has a really good offense, and they held serve for the majority of the game, still getting a point. And I think we could say that they left some goals on the ice quite a bit. So again, there's still opportunities for them to play even better. But with that, you had brought up a very astute point when we were talking about what we wanted to do today. Brock Nelson got one, and maybe rightfully so, didn't really fit in as well as we would have liked at the end of last season post that trade, right? This is also only the second franchise he ever played for. Long time, took time to adapt, re-signs with the Avalanche, and there were skeptics out there like, that's what are we doing? You know, all that stuff, which is interesting because we've been crying for a second line center forever, and then we get a legitimate one, and then everyone's like, why are you re-signing? I thought the deal was pretty reasonable, actually. So, you know, you're doing pretty well. Came out really struggling, and I think that gave credence to the Boo Birds.
Yeah.
But they quiet now, and I think without an understanding, like he isn't just a good player. He was positively impacting the Avalanche game to game, even though he wasn't racking up points. I think for a ship that had been rudderless for a long time with leadership, etc., you got a guy like that can fill that void when Gabe's hurt or out, and not taking away or minimizing Gabe, because with both of them, I think you really feel good about the temperature of the locker room and guys having accountability. And now he's on what we call a heater.
Yeah.
What do you say? And so balling out, right? But what would you say for hockey?
It's a great question.
Like he's playing good, eh?
Yeah.
Something like that, probably.
Something like that.
But I mean, and to me, like a lot of it just pays off. He's always in the right place. He does some of the dirty stuff, right? And I think goals can be finicky like that. You know, rarely is it ever this pretty, the triple deke. Rarely do you get in breakaways where you're able to like go top shelf and do all this pretty stuff. Usually they're deflections or great passes, good puck movement, team oriented. It's rarely just a you. So they come in bunches, and it's because he's always in the right place.
Yeah.
He's a smart player and helping complement the likes of Nathan McKinnon, et cetera, who are the prettier, more athletic, aesthetically pleasing kind of athletes. They're the ones that do the highlight reels. Brock's not going to get a highlight reel, but he's going to grab 20 boards or whatever. I don't know. And so talk a little bit about where you were at, because that was one that you were like, I think we really need to talk about that. He's kind of earned the not so fast, my friend. See, told you.
Yeah, it's one of those things like you understood in the offseason that there was an inherent risk after seeing kind of him come over, struggle a little bit to kind of mesh with the team, not knowing what that was going to look like. Also, like you said, he'd just been an Islander for pretty much his whole career, if not his whole career. And then you just wondered if he could capture that same kind of, he's just such a home crowd guy that the team loved him so much. The fans loved him so much. I just remember when we made that trade, kind of being on Twitter and just seeing all of the fans that were sad, but also giving them well wishes. There's only so many guys in franchises like that that kind of spend the majority of their career in one place. And so just seeing him be able to come over this year, understand kind of what the expectation is inside of this offense and what his role would be, and just filling that perfectly and just kind of getting more and more comfortable as the season's gone on has been really impressive. Yep. It's not the style of offense that he played necessarily with the Islanders. Like you said, he's been he's always had some goal scoring finesse, but he's also a hard work, get down low, screen the goalie, get deflections, clean up loose pucks, that sort of guy. And he still does that, but he's the second highest goal scorer on the team so far this year, right, ahead of Marty Necas, only by one. But Necas has been electric.
He came out of the gates. He had more goals than Nate to start the first couple weeks of the season, right? Like he was in fuego.
Mm-hmm. And they've been nice goals that they look like. I think he had one. I don't remember his last game or the game before, but it was just this little short, like 5-foot pass from McKinnon off the boards to him that was just like this quick slap shot, and it was just laser accuracy. Just seeing them have that connection, even if it's on power play or they're not playing the vast majority of minutes together, but just seeing him have that chemistry with both of those first two lines of guys has been really impressive. It's been really a big boost for this team. And, he's just one more guy that if Nate or that first line for whatever reason isn't isn't clicking. You know, you've got a secondary goal scorer on that second line that's just filling it up right now. And it's really been an exciting thing for Avs fans. I think that at this point, I don't think there's any question that the contract was worth it. You know, obviously that we'll see as playoffs roll around. We'll see. That's where people make their names, especially when you go on cup runs, which they are planning to do. They have goals of doing. So, you know, that I suppose that some of that remains to be seen. But so far, the re-signing of Brock Nelson has been, you know, arguably the best signing of the offseason, and will hopefully continue to be so.
Yeah, it's you got to have guys willing to do what needs to get done, and the fact that he feels comfortable enough, I think, to let himself be a tertiary, quadricery, whatever it is for fourth and fifth offensive weapon, right? For a guy that was the face of the, you know, he was like he was the guy over there you saw on Twitter where people loved him, and you know, he probably got treated with high amounts of respect and leaned on in that locker room to not only be a good leader, but to be the man, right? So it's like Aaron Gordon coming to the Nuggets, like, oh, like, okay, well, if I figure out my role, we can win. And, you know, been the guy that's taking all the shots. That said, it's good to see him come into his own where he is now contributing much more on the offensive end, right? Instead of maybe deferring or just trying to be a part of the group versus like, I'm going to play and this group is good enough that we can play off one another. I like that he's so versatile. He can play on the penalty kill and be a solid plus contributor at the top of the blue line. That he is a park your butt in front, do the tough work, deflections, screens on the power play, as well as a really strong two-way player. And that's what you pay for when you're getting a second line center. I mean, that's what you want, right? Obviously, whoever's going to be after McKinnon is going to have a significant drop-off because you can't go for the best player in the world to the next. Like, it just doesn't happen. And he's playing first-line center quality play right now. And so I think you're right. I think this was a damn good deal. McFarland is playing 4D chess, man, out there while some guys just can't figure it out. To be able to get him back at the number that they did after the letdown of coming here and not being able to advance in the finals or the Stanley Cup playoffs towards the finals, he should get an extra love and some kudos. So I'll rock with Brock. You know, with our clocks out, my man is a good player, and I like him. He fits. He's blue collar yet really good. It's kind of like Colorado. Like, we're kind of blue collar-ish, but not like steel, factories blue collar. We're like go on hikes and live in the dirt a little bit, but we can clean up nice blue collar. That's what so I think Brock Nelson is. He's the guy that can get you a guy that can do both.
Yeah, and I think
he may not be a 10, but he's a 7 everywhere he goes,
Yeah, and I think we have identified in the past with some of these teams that maybe they lacked a little toughness. Maybe they lacked a little bit of, maybe they had one or two guys that'll get down and kind of muddy up the goal crease. But we've got a number of those guys, and Brock Nelson is, doing it at a high level. He's kind of brings kind of an edge and a mentality to the team that I think was missing. And I think you can find kind of that toughness along all four lines now, which, I think maybe we knew that Nathan has some toughness, some dog in him. Gabe hasn't been able to play, so we haven't had that kind of toughness on that second line. Even a guy like Val Nichushkin is really great carrying the puck, but he's not necessarily a physical player, in the corners against the boards, that sort of thing. So it's just fun to see this team flourish. It's fun to see them kind of shape their identity a little bit as the seasons have gone on. We've gone from this super hyper fast finesse team to still being a really fast finesse team, but also having a little more dimension to us. And I think that'll serve them well moving forward.
Absolutely.
Let's talk a little bit of Nuggets.
Let's go.
Your Denver Nuggets, since Nikola Jokic has gone down with injury, are 5-3. Most recently, a win over the New Orleans Pelicans last night. Jamal Murray scores 35 with 9 assists. Peyton Watson scores 31. It's just impressive to watch these guys right now. They are finding ways to win games. They're finding ways to win games on the road, which is not something that's easy in any league. And Jamal's kind of carrying the flag, and Peyton Watson's becoming a player that is not only reliable in the minutes that he's getting, but really a creator on offense, which I don't know that anyone's really had that on their bingo card for this season.
No.
Part of that's due to like opportunity, right? When you have a full healthy lineup, they just don't have the minutes necessarily. But now with all these injuries, it's given him a prime opportunity to show himself off and show what skills he has. And really, even from the beginning of the season to this point, you've seen growth on that side of the ball. Just general thoughts on Peyton Watson thus far. I know we'll get into a little bit more talk about some other players, coaching, etc. But let's start with P. Watt.
Yeah, some of this isn't apples to apples, but it definitely is something to note of like, did they pay the wrong? Yeah. Right. And hindsight being 2020, because I think when the deal happened for Christian Braun getting this extension, I don't think any of us were like, nah, you should give that to Peyton Watson. I don't think he had played himself into that. I don't even think Peyton Watson would have said, like, yeah, that should be my deal. However, just over the last 5 games, Peyton Watson is averaging 25.8 points a game, 7.8 rebounds a game, 4.2 assists per game. Western Conference Player of the Week. And I think to summarize kind of what this team's doing is really, it's like perfect example of just like team basketball. They're winning on the glass. They are cutting turnovers, which that was their big issue to start the season, was just giving all of the turnovers that they could, and then wondering why they're in close games with someone that they're dominating. And so I think they had 4 turnovers last night, or some single digit, really low.
Maybe it was a low number. I don't remember the number, but it was low.
And I think maybe it was that New Orleans only had 4 points off the turnovers. And so they're playing really efficient basketball, which is really good to see considering that the smartest player in the league is not suiting up for you at the current moment in time. What I also think is, because there's an issue we're going to have to talk about, like, how do you set the lineup here? So I busted out the starter, bench, extra reserves, right? The 12 deep team. And I made the comment, like, I think our second unit is a top 4 seed in the East, now it's like, they're all contributing. Can you find minutes for all of those guys? Every game, no. But just like Oklahoma City, they're, especially in the regular season, can you have Jamal playing 28 minutes a game? Good, right? With where it's appropriate, et cetera. So I think there's an opportunity to do that. I think Rick Adelman, who I know we're going to lean into here in a second, has owned that as the leader of this team. And instead of only playing his vets, he's worked on the development, and maybe some of it is you have to when guys get hurt like that.
Right.
But Peyton Watson never played to this good with Malone ever, and some of it was if you miss a shot, or like, I'm yanking you. And for a guy that just turned 24 a bit ago, I think that how are you ever going to grow if you're so scared to fail because you'll lose your minutes that you only take wide open jumpers and you play D. Well, as we've seen, that was not who this guy is. And so, Calvin Booth must have been a significant douchebag because his Jalen Pickett, all those guys are contributing and playing really good minutes. Peyton Watson, et cetera, a guy that averaged 3.5 points a game in college. And they were like, yeah, let's bring him here. And he's developed on, kind of on pace considering how young he was when he came out.
Yeah.
I think that my opinion is the Nuggets absolutely should lean into the Oklahoma City style and, reduce your stars, especially when you don't have to. The only caveat of that being, our guy right now, Jamal is, in my opinion, he's at all-star level. Maybe you could talk about all NBA, at least consideration for, first, second, third team kind of stuff. Consistent, playing smart basketball, scoring the bucket. He's hurt too. Like, let's give him some kudos that he put himself in a position to be fit enough to withstand ankle injury, and like play through it and drop 30. And we all cried and said, we need a better version of Jamal Murray, especially Chris. And he responded. And not many guys change their stripes after a championship and, $500 million in earnings, whatever it's going to be. But he's done with this deal. And he has. And I think just understanding human behavior, that's super impressive. Like it just really is. So I'm excited for where things are. I think my question for you, all the way back, will be how would you tinker with the rotation? Meaning, right, so you get everyone back. We got I'm going to leave it open. I'm not going to skew it. So we got everyone back. Everyone's healthy. Coming playoff time. For the most part, everyone's playing good basketball. But with the information now, right, just say kind of continues through. Guys keep playing at similar levels. We get to the playoff time. How do you manage a 12-player or 12 to 15 guys if you had 100? Like, those guys have earned some time, but for brevity's sake, we'll keep it. What do you do? Who's your starting lineup right now?
It's tough because I think you rock.
It is tough. That's why I asked the question.
I know.
Because I deliver the tough ones. Sorry. Okay. I'm done. I'm sorry.
Fair.
I'm sorry. I was in a training all day.
I think you have to keep. Yeah, fair. I think you keep the starters. I think the last thing you want is for Christian to lose confidence in this stretch, even though, he's come out, he's been pretty shaky when he was healthy, and then obviously being injured. He came back. Seems like he maybe wasn't fully ready to come back. He's been out the last couple of games with some foot pain, some ankle pain. So obviously rushed him back a little bit too soon. So let's get him healthy. But I think, best case scenario is that you get Christian back to where Christian was last year, a little more aggressive, finishing around the rim, his legs underneath him. Even when I was watching the game he came back and played, I think that may have been the Sixers game. No, not the Sixers game, the Celtics game. He didn't seem to have the same lift. Like, he's a great athlete. He needs to be able to use his athleticism. If he can't use that, then it definitely hampers what he's trying to do out there. But I think you gotta rock with the same starters. I think the only thing different is that Peyton Watson's your de facto sixth man. I think that you allow him to come in and be a ball handler. I think you allow him to come in and play some isolation, like ISO in offense, where he can kind of beat a man one-on-one. It'll be interesting to see how teams adapt to that. I'm guessing that they'll start crowding the lanes a little bit as he drives and make him be more of a passer. So I'll be interested to see if he can adapt his game to be a bit more of a playmaker, which is something we haven't quite seen yet. We've seen flashes of it, but not on a consistent basis. But I think really, like, unlocking this offensive resurgence or I guess new skill tree for Peyton Watson is, let's let him use it and continue to develop it. I don't know that he's going to necessarily get to do it alongside the starters to begin with, but I think that remains open. I don't think that you shut the door on him breaking into the starting lineup if he's out playing guys. I don't think you shut the door to him closing games if someone's cold. This team, and it's always kind of been this team. It's It's swing the ball, share the ball. Whoever's hot, let them be hot. Whoever's making baskets, let them make baskets. You can't change that just because Peyton Watson's outplaying some of the starters potentially. And so I think that if Adelman is kind of true to his philosophy, then he's got to allow them to battle, and I think that keep that door open for Peyton Watson to be able to battle.
Do you think when Jokic is back, everyone's Murray's good? Do you want Peyton Watson to lean into that playmaking role, or do you want his presence to be more of a tertiary option?
Yeah, I think that it's more. I think that you will rely on his offense more when Jokic isn't on the court. Obviously, I think that that's just going to be the fact for everyone, But I do think that maybe you allow him to run more action. I do think you set screens for him and allow him to attack downhill more than he has before. Really, he's been off the ball. He's been cutter, someone who can time his cuts to the rim with what Jokic likes to do, getting other guys open with jump shots. But now he's been, I think he won Player of the Week this week or last week. And I think he was shooting 70% from three, which is insane.
Yep.
It's not a fluke. Like, that's not a fluke number. It is a fluke number because he's not going to continue to shoot that high. But, like, you don't shoot that high without having a good base, shot. And so, obviously, we're not going to see that same sort of level of shot making from three. But I don't think it's going to go away either. And it's something that he's added to his game. It's the same way that we are praising Aaron Gordon for adding that 3-point to his game. We should be praising Peyton Watson for adding that to his game. And I just think that he is a lot more dangerous on the court than he was previously. And I think that that's going to benefit the Nuggets in the long run.
Yeah. So I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive. And I think when you find out that you got a potential star in your hands, I don't know that you put the genie back. I think Cam Johnson sits down.
All right.
Because I agree with you. I think Christian's a more definite plan for your long term. And I think Peyton, you can play Watson I think a little bit better than having him be at the 2, and then you have Cam Johnson. I think that's a nice option, though. I think Cam has been off the bench more too, and even when Cam was at his best, he didn't put up a stretch like this. That's just not the kind of player he is. He's more of a steady, fundamental, do what's But a good player that can fill up a stat sheet, but not to the degree that Peyton Watson is or has kind of throughout the season. And especially not with the efficiency that he's done it with, while also being the best defender on the floor. And it's how great would it be Nikola scoring instead of 30, scoring 24, instead of Jamal scoring 25, he's scoring 21, and you got Peyton getting the rest of those shots. And if he's doing it, really, like Aaron Gordon is kind of the big three, but really, he's kind of the Gabe Landeskog, right? Like, I'll just do whatever needs to get done. I don't have to score the goals. Now you got Marty Netchus or whoever you want to this dude wants to put the ball in the bucket. And imagine if he finds himself similar to the way the Warriors really had, when they got Iguodala, or when Kevin Durant, when they were 4 studs deep.
Yeah.
Like, they just run sub on. I just don't think Christian Braun will ever get to that level of on the offensive end or even on the defensive end. I think he's not as big and long as Peyton is. So I think he makes this team dangerous. And I think if you cut his legs out now, one, I think you hinder his want to come back
Sure.
after this. And, him clicking at that cylinder, Jokic will come in ready to go. And Aaron Gordon has kind of found his rhythm. I think it reduced some of the pressure on Cam Johnson to really make an impact, and maybe that helps boost his effectiveness. It's scary, man. In my opinion, right now, it's barring any setback. Instead of I feel really good about them in the postseason. I will be disappointed, significant disappointment, if this team doesn't win the Larry O'Brien Trophy. There's just no reason. You just uncovered. I mean, all of it. You got Spencer Jones, who is a very strong, very strong contributor. You're really seeing Jalen Pickett come in and be that backup point guard that you've really wanted, the facilitator. Tim Hardaway Jr. has been a stud. I mean, all season.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, just shooting lights out.
Shooting lights out. I mean, Zeke Naji even has shown to be a solid game in and game out contributor. And so I think you got to lean into it and see where things go. And I think you have I think you've really, for as long as we've been upset about the depth and the bench, now that you have depth and bench, you better stoke that flame. Don't let that out. It's Survivor. You're trying to get to the final three, plead your case. You got a little flame, Jeff Probst over there being like, and Nick's sparked a flame, but if it doesn't catch, he's gonna lose. You better kindle, hush, little. Okay, if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you don't watch Survivor, they do this thing where they compete, fire making. Anyway, it's a lot of pressure. Okay, it's a lot of pressure. You don't want to let it out, and we've been deprived of that flame for so long. I'll be damned if they I will go down to the arena and I will start doing their subs. I think Adelman's got it covered. But since I've talked too long, let's do a real quick Adelman segment and let's go into football. Yeah. You said, hey, is Rick Adelman the front runner for Coach of the Year? What is your take before I tell you?
Yeah, I think there's three guys right now that are the front runners. I think it's Adelman. I think it's Jordan Ott for Phoenix. And I think that it's Joe Mazzulla with the Celtics. And I think that all these guys have – I think, the expectation for the Suns going into the season was fairly low. Rebuilding, you ship out Durant, you ship out Beal. You maintain Booker, but that's about all you have. And they've really found some stuff there. And then Mazzulla, you're playing without your superstar in Jason Tatum. And they've more than stayed afloat in the Eastern Conference, which you could argue is maybe a weaker conference than the Western Conference. And I don't think many people would fight that. But Adelman, I think, is doing something here that, especially with the injuries and just having to shift the way that the Nuggets are winning and playing games, that I think is just maybe a little bit under the radar. I think people who know the NBA are paying attention. I think that they're aware that this is kind of not what was expected when Jokic went down. Probably your casual fan didn't expect the Nuggets to have a winning record thus far.
I think even we didn't.
Yeah.
Did you expect them to have a winning record when he got hurt?
No.
We were hold serve. If they won 40% of their games while he was out, I would have been. And remind you, when he has been off the floor, they've been the worst team in basketball.
Yeah.
Right. So it's in games, when he leaves, they go from being the best to the worst, at least historically. This year's a little different. We just don't know what we don't know. And to be there, I would think. Currently, though, your boys in Vegas don't agree. So Adelman sits in a tie with Jamal Mosley and Chris Finch for 11th at plus 6,600. Current odds for Coach of the Year, JB Bickerstaff, plus 170. Mitch Johnson for the Spurs, plus 325. And then Joe Mazzulla for 400. Jordan Ott at plus 5. And Mike Brown with the Knicks rounding out the top 5 at plus 2,000. So remind you again, the plus means you got to bet. If you bet $100, there's how much you win. So the odds right now, if you bet $100, and right now David Alman wins, you would win 6,600 back. That's the likelihood that the Vegas heads see this. However,
I might take it.
I mean, he's not winning with Jokic. Like, there's no crutch there.
Right.
He's getting all-star performances out of Jamal Murray when he has never been an all-star. You are covering up, like you won a game without the top 7 contributors of your team on the road against a playoff team, like in Phoenix or in Philadelphia. All while, it's it being your first time as a head coach.
Yeah.
I think he's under-recognized. Hopefully, as the team continues to win, get footing, some of the growth of guys like Peyton Watson continues. I think he'll get his rightful dues. But
and I think,
as of now, people be hating.
I think just to put a fine point on it, the one thing that he's doing in allowing these guys to play and giving them confidence is bolstering their trade value, which I think is not something that we need to overlook. I think at some point someone's going to get moved. Someone's going to have to get moved, especially if you're thinking about re-signing Peyton Watson if that's a possibility. We'll see if he outplays what contract we can offer him. But now you're thinking about, maybe we move Cam Johnson in the offseason. Maybe we move someone to make room for Peyton Watson. Maybe we can get a small asset for Zeke Naji now that he's gone out and played well. Maybe we can get a small asset for a Pickett that will set you up to grab another piece down the road if needed. A lot of these guys are on 1-year deals. Your Bruce Browns, your Tim Hardaway Jr. So you're not going to be able to, unless they decide to come back for another minimum. And if you win a championship or you're close, they're probably going to get paid by someone. I think that you've got to talk about how you're manipulating your salary cap a little bit. And if Jamal makes All-Star, which it looks like he's going to, next time his contract comes up, he can ask for more money. So these are all things you have to take into consideration. And I think just bolstering the value of those players off the bench is really big for the Nuggets.
Yep.
But let's transition.
Yeah.
Actually, before we transition, we got 1 or 2 housekeeping items.
Let's do it real quick. So, podcast today is brought to you by Dubby. Dubby's clean energy drink. Be better. Jitterless energy blend. Go to their website. Okay. At Dubby.com. You can use promo code OBN10, Orange Blue Network 10, or Bonix 10, and get 10% off. So go get you some Dubby. Again, all the good stuff, none of the bad stuff. Go like and subscribe at the Orange and Blue Network on YouTube. Follow us on all your socials and all that good stuff, because we aren't the only awesome show here.
Yes, there are a number of amazing shows, especially if you want Broncos content. You've got shows every day of the week, Monday through Friday. You've got your Orange and Blue Blitz Mondays, Broncos Bros Mondays as well. Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue Tuesdays, ourselves on Wednesdays. Broncos Talk Wednesdays as well. Mile High Oukast Thursday. Then you've got our Spanish-friendly Broncos podcast, Viva Las Broncos. And along with breaking news, pregame, play-by-play, and postgame shows with Fresh Squeeze, Get Buck, The Bucking Booth, and Buck Your Feelings. So lots and lots of Broncos content here. And if you want the other content, you can always come chat with us at 2:30 on Wednesdays. But now it's time to talk.
Back to your regular scheduled programming.
Yes, time to talk about the team that is in the playoffs. We're not projecting this. This is happening. Your Denver Broncos. Did they come up with the time? I'm guessing we're the early game on Saturday.
They are. Yep. Yeah. So we're 2:30 Saturday against the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo edged out a pretty tough, in my opinion, the most fun game this weekend.
Yeah.
Against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Absolutely was a rock fight. How Josh Allen got out of bed at all this week, I don't know, but here we are. Some would say, this might be the hardest of the matchups.
Yeah.
Ahead of you if you are the Broncos, or at least the best quarterback in the AFC left. I think that's a fair assessment, and maybe in the NFL playoffs period. I think Matt Stafford is playing at a really high level, but Josh Allen is the reigning MVP, and with the help of his linemen, carried this team to a win. And so we're gonna break down what we got in store ahead of us as the Broncos will face the Bills, trying to win their first playoff game since the famous run of 2015 on the way to the Super Bowl. First home playoff game since 2015. And so the 2015 season to 2016. So exactly 10 years-ish from this weekend. The matchup, I think, is fairly even. If anyone remembers this matchup last year, which you do, I don't think any babies are watching this podcast. So you were hearing around. It's weird because essentially is the same team, but it's not. This team has gotten banged up quite a bit, but I think their efficacy as a team just doesn't look the same. It looks last year it looked a little more easy for them, if that makes sense. I think they're still, they still have won 13 games, including the playoffs and regular season. It's pretty damn good. And so it's not like they backed into the postseason. They were a game behind, 2 games behind New England. We're able to go in New England towards the end of the year and win that game. Offensively, though, when Khalil Shakir is, and no disrespect, he is a great slot receiver, short intermediate range, but they have no deep threats to speak of, especially Gabe Davis went down with a pretty rough-looking injury. Ghost of Brandon Cooks is on the left. You got Shakir on the right. The issue that I have, or the concern that I have, and if Buffalo doesn't do this, McDermott, pack up your bags tomorrow and leave. They have 2 of the better tight ends in the NFL and probably the best combo. When you look at Dalton Kincaid and how did I forget his first name? And Dawson Knox. Good gracious, Nick. That even with a healthy Greenlaw, healthy Singleton, we've seen it forever. Tight ends like Dalton Kincaid, no one covers them well.
Right.
That's why they're so coveted. But it's strength on strength, and last year we felt really good about the defense. I do believe that we all believe this version of the defense is better. You are going to be without Brandon Jones for the remainder of the postseason, most likely. However, everyone else is healthy. Dre Greenlaw is back. Franklin Myers looks like he's good to go. Your guys got rest. How do you feel about the matchup? For the defensive matchup, we're going to start.
The defense and offense. I feel okay.
The Bills offense, our defense.
Yeah. Obviously there's the inherent worry about Josh Allen as quarterback, especially the way he can move with the ball in his hands, not necessarily throwing the ball, but running the ball. So, their ability to pick up short yardage that way. I think there are some significant challenges, but, I think that, like you said, it's strength on strength. Our strength is this defensive team, this ability to put pressure on the quarterback, and their strength is Josh Allen. So it's really going to come down to linebacker play and safety play. I think we've got to be able to make sure that we're keeping an eye on Josh Allen. We know where he is at all times. We've got to be able to spy him a little bit. Or, it's going to come down to the pass rush too, ability to put pressure on him quickly, make him tuck the ball early, not when our secondary is completely downfield chasing receivers. Obviously you want to stop the run against Brandon Cooks, but I think first and foremost, you got a game plan for Josh Allen, because this is Josh Allen's team, and they win and lose kind of based on his performance. And I think this defense has the ability to put pressure on him, has the ability to come away with some significant losses as far as yardage goes. If they really pin their ears back and get after him, I think, this will be a good barometer game for a guy like Nick Bonito, whose second half of the season's been a little bit slower. Same with Jonathan Cooper. Can these guys kind of create more havoc down in the pocket and around the line of scrimmage and just muddy everything up? And I think it'll be a task that they're up to. Will it be enough? That remains to be seen. But I think that, I have confidence in the defense to come out and give everything that they can and make this game competitive, as opposed to last year where it was a bit of a boat race.
Yeah, what I would remind everyone is it was a pretty competitive game for a bit. There were a couple key drops on drives. And then I think that there were a couple of calls that didn't go the Broncos' way, that I think that all of that stuff needed to happen for the Broncos to come away with a win.
Yeah.
We were playing with house money. We all knew it. I think that the team hung in there much better than we would have thought, or at least we would have planned. And I think Bo Nix statistically would have looked a lot better if a few guys really had come down with some tough catches.
Yeah.
Cortland Sutton had a few. Franklin had a few. But new year, new us. And I think on the defensive end, what this team really needs to focus on in the Bills' losses this year, Josh Allen, really stopping the run game.
Yeah.
I think when in terms of James Cook, which they are the number one rushing team, I believe, in the NFL, and number 2 in yards per game, and so they are scoring 28.3 points a game. And my feeling is, I think you have to win aggressively. Whatever they're talking about, the cage rushes and all that stuff. Josh Allen, in my opinion, isn't going to scamper for 50 yards. He might for 20, etc.
Right.
But he is also banged up, and if he doesn't commit turnovers, they're going to win the game, in my opinion. If the Broncos aren't plus territory when it comes to the turnover differential, I think Buffalo wins, because I think that these teams are pretty evenly matched. I think none of us will be shocked at the outcome on Saturday. I'd be disappointed or elated, but none of us are going to be shocked, because I don't think it's going to be a boat race. And I think both teams can put themselves in position to win. But the games that he's lost, he's been under significant pressure, which has caused him to have a pretty porous completion percentage. And with their lack of receiving depth, I think you can bank on his throws, him wanting to get the ball out a little bit quicker, especially to Dawson Knox and Kincaid.
Yeah.
Because of the positions that they're in, utilizing the middle of the field. I think if the Broncos can get pressure, or really utilize kind of a box one mentality, where it's like Pat and Riley, they got those guys. Like I don't think that they're, I don't think Josh Allen's going to test Pat Surtain too much,
Right.
Brandon Cooks or what have you. And so if that's the case, I think you really can funnel coverage as well as play a little bit tighter in the box. So I think if that's the case, I think that this version of the Broncos defense is more equipped to hold up than last year. I think that team ran out of gas. This team gets a week break. I think this team is much better against the run than last year's team. And you really saw it in last year's matchup. James Cook just diced us. And and I think for us to win, because I'm on the team, for the Broncos to win, I think you really got to make them work for it. I think Jacksonville, for the most part, did a good job defensively, and was able to create some turnovers. I think Josh will play hero ball and he will try and do too much. And I think if you're able to capitalize on those opportunities, I think that this is very winnable in terms of defense. I also think having a clear understanding of what's expected, Buffalo will not get shut out in this game. This isn't a poor offensive team where it's like we can do very minimal. I think the offense has to come out. We'll talk about them in a second, but if you keep the Bills in the low 20s, I think you win the game.
Yeah.
I think if they get anything more than 24 points, I think that's probably a wrap. I think if this team gets in a shootout with Josh Allen, that's tough. And then you don't want him to have the ball last. If he gets the ball and you're up a score or less or something like that, I think it's gonna be really tough. So in my opinion, I think you got to let the dogs out. Who let the dogs out? Vance Joseph will need to let the dogs out. The really conservative style of defense just isn't it. You saw what happened when they turned the heat up against Jordan Love and the Packers defense, they shriveled. And when Josh Allen gets pressure, he's at least human. I think that's a really big component for this team. On offense, my friend, this has to be a bow game.
Yeah.
The Bills do a good job with their rush defense. I think that probably has more to do with the fact that you got to play catch up quick against. As you can see, PFF isn't the gospel, but it's not like everyone on the defense has played phenomenal this year. No, sorry, the rush defense is terrible. Their secondary has been really good, but part of that is why are you throwing it? There we go. I had it backwards. When you can run the ball down their throat, which is pretty interesting when you have Wayne Walker, who's like 350 pounds at your nose tackle. But Rousseau and Bosa, even when Bosa was in his prime, he's still like 260. And so those aren't guys that I think, physically can hold up with a point attack as well as some other teams. This has to be a ground game, and Bo's got to be able to make plays. Like there really has to be some queued up shots. The Packers game plan needs to be essentially what the Broncos do on offense this game. Utilize the run game. I think you have a really good mismatch in terms of Harvey in space. If there were a game where Evan Ingram decided to be a matchup nightmare or Sean allowed him to be, this would be it. But I feel good about the Broncos offensive front against the Bills defensive front. Secondary, I like Benford. Tre'Davious White has rebounded really nice. The safeties have, I think, settled, but they're not that great in my opinion. So I think you're going to get an opportunity for a couple shots. But I think this team has to get rolling early. And I think that's probably true for most teams ever. Like, we got to, of course you do. Of course you don't want to start the game down 10-0. But I think for confidence for this young team, if they can go down and score first, I think that this will be one, that building will be crazy. It's already going to be hard to breathe and all that stuff.
Yep.
You start getting some pressure on that team to have to play perfect or all that good stuff. I think this team can really be it. How they run the ball, I think, will be the key.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. It's funny. I feel good, relatively good about the Broncos offense in this matchup. Especially with our offensive line. I just think our offensive line is going to be able to stymie the Bills. They're going to give Bo a lot of time to be able to operate and hopefully go through progressions and make some throws that will remind us why Bo is Bo Nix and why he's the leader of this team and the leader of this offense. We've seen him make some amazing throws. We've also seen him make some crazy out of pocket throws, but I think for the most part this team believes in Bo Nix. I think the fan base for the most part believes in Bo Nix, and I think that this is his opportunity to kind of come out and show that this isn't just a defensive football team, that this team has is dangerous on both sides of the ball, and I think they're going to need to be. I have a My prediction is if the Broncos win, it's a very layered prediction, but I think if the Broncos win, then Bo Nix will have more rushing yards than Josh Allen. He's been utilizing his legs the second half of the season a little bit more than he has previously in his career. And I think that is an X factor in this game. I think his ability to scramble, I think his ability to get outside the pocket and pick up first downs with his legs is going to be important. And I think it's going to be important to keep the defense on their toes for him to be able to get out there and get in space and be an athlete. And, I think he's probably a little bit of an underrated athlete with the ball in his hands. And I think it's maybe more just a hidden gem for those who don't watch Bo Nix. But I think it's something that I will be interested to see if they lean into. And I think that if they do, that they'll get a lot of success out of it. But yeah, I mean, you got to establish the run game. It's got to be a balanced offense. And I think like you said, I think Ingram is an interesting X factor as well. He's someone that no one can really match up against on that defense. And if he is fully engaged and they're creating looks for him, then it could be an interesting scenario to see him kind of operate in the middle of the field.
Yep. Yeah, I really like that rushing matchup. I think that's a good sneaky one.
I just think that if Josh has to run the ball, it's going to be out of necessity. And I think you can win games with him. If he's primarily successful on the ground, you're going to win more often than if he's successful through the air. Whereas Bo Nix, I think you expect him to make his plays through the air and not necessarily on the ground. So that's why I said that.
Yeah, because I think if Bo Nix is able to really lean in, pick up some first downs, they're able to use the zone read effectively and have him be a threat running the ball. I think that will create. Trevor Lawrence did it, and Bo Nix is a better athlete than Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence was able to give them something that, some different stuff. Reminding everyone, Jacksonville had 359 yards of offense. They ran the ball for 154 yards, so 6.7 average. They overcame 2 Trevor Lawrence picks. So they hung in there. James Cook only had 46 yards of rushing. And I think if you do something similar while also being able to make sure that you cue on Josh Allen, it's nice to have Dre Greenlaw back. I'll say that. And convert touchdowns instead of field goals. I think if this team is able to even just one more per game in the playoffs than they did in the regular season, I think it'll be a positive run. Give me your predictions because we got to bounce.
Prediction. I'm known as the pessimist on this podcast, so I will break form and I will say the Broncos will win 24-23 against the Bills on Saturday. I
concur. I think that the Broncos win. I think we have ourselves a 24 or 27-24 game. I think it'll be the best game of the weekend. I think you're going to see two really good quarterbacks. I think, at least defensively, the Bills are pretty well coached, so they might not have all the horses, but they'll keep their team in it. And I give the slight edge to the home team. I think the Broncos are hungry, and I think they're focused to go in and get a win. I would say if Josh Allen, if they don't win this, I don't see how McDermott.
It's hard to say.
That's this, but in that market, they probably feel something different. But I definitely would be shocked. So, looks like we got Broncos for a win. Hopefully, you all too. JT, see us out.
Yeah, I'd like to note that the Chargers fan that was talking smack last week did not return. You are a coward, sir.
Oh,
otherwise, thank you everyone for being here. We appreciate you. Be kind to one another. Be safe out there. And if you need a sports prescription, ask a doctor.
I got you.
From football to hockey, we're taking it higher. Join the celebration, feel that sports desire. So grab your crew, let's hit the show. My high sports symposium, let the good times flow.